again, welcome back. It's Mr. Steele. And again, I'm going to be going through a pre-calculus standard quiz question from term 3. And this time I'm going to be going through standard quiz question number 6, which is one that I realize everyone kind of knows how to do for the most part, but if you're not careful and if you're not paying attention to all the steps, you will make a mistake. So really also this is one of my favorite ones, so that's why I'm doing it. So what we need to do is, as the instructions say, we've got to find an inverse, but we have to complete the square first in order to get this quadratic equation from having 2x's down to 1. So the strategies over here make it seem really simple, but really it's going to be a little bit of work. And if you make one little mistake on this problem, the entire thing will end up being wrong. So you have to be careful. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move over my constant. So I'm going to subtract it on both sides. We'll get a 0 there. It's going to give me y minus 5. And then I'm going to leave some space. I'm going to actually start the second step also. Because once this guy's gone, once we've got a 0 there, we've got 7x squared plus 28x, we're going to actually factor out a GCF. Well, in this case it's GCF. Normally it's just whatever a is. We're going to actually factor that leading coefficient out. So that leaves me with x squared plus 28 divided by 7 is 4x, and then plus some other number. So in order to complete the square, we're going to have to find what that number is. So I'm going to leave room for it over here also. Okay, so now at this point, completing the square. Again, I'm going to do it in depth. So start with plus 4. Cut it in half is plus 2. Square it is going to be 2 squared, which is 4. So we're going to be adding 4 on the inside here to make this guy a perfect square. But that means on the other side, we're actually adding 7 times positive 4, which is 28. So that's one of those big spots where people make mistakes. So that's one to watch. So over on the left side now, I've got y plus 28 minus 5 is 23. And then over on the right side, I've got 7 times something squared. Well, if we do a little diamond off in the corner, just to remind you why this works. On two numbers that multiply to 4 and add up to 4, that's going to be positive 2, positive 2. So this is really x plus 2 times x plus 2, which is the same thing as x plus 2 squared. And that was really our goal. We wanted to now get our equation, we wanted to complete the square, and so we've done that. And so now, I could obviously subtract that 23 and move back over, but since I have to find the inverse, I'm not going to. I'm just going to switch x and y right now. So I'm going to do the inverse step. And this will just save me one little place I can make a sign mistake. So x plus 23 equals 7 times the quantity y plus 2 all squared. And so now I've just got to start solving for y, trying to get y alone. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this number out in front here. So I'm going to divide the whole thing by 7. Give me a 1 there. That will leave me with x plus 23 both divided by 7 equals quantity y plus 2 squared. And now in order to get down and get into this little parentheses here, we've got to kind of break it out. So we've got something squared, so we're going to undo that by taking a square root. So there we go. This side is going to give me y plus 2. On this side though, well, I mean, we don't actually have to rationalize the denominator in this case. So we're not going to. We get this. Notice the 7 is underneath the square root. It's not separate. It's not outside here. But since we've just introduced the square root into the problem, we have two options. We have plus or minus. So, you know what, if I'm being honest here, most of you could probably just avoid mistakes in this problem just by remembering the plus or minus at some point. But even so, we're now really close to our ending. We've got plus or minus the square root of x plus 23 over 7 equals y plus 2. In order to get this over there, we've got to subtract 2. So I'm going to do that out in front. It's going to leave me with y equals, so I'm going to switch the order here, y equals negative 2 plus or minus the quantity square root x plus 23 all over 7. Now this is my final answer. One little thing I like to do is, since we start with y, this is really y inverse, so I'm just going to kind of write it that way. And there we go. We have our inverse function. So y is negative 2 plus or minus the square root of x plus 23 over 7. And there is the square completed inverse function. Okay, I'm back. Let's look at a second example here. As always, I'd say this would probably be a good time to pause the video and try it yourself, see where you get stuck, or try and finish the problem, and then kind of check and compare your answer with mine. So it's obviously up to you, but I think it does help. So here we go. We want to now find the inverse of this quadratic equation, first by completing the square, then by finding the inverse the normal way. So the first thing you might notice here is this one might be a little tougher because we've got a negative sign out in front. So we're just going to have to be really careful with our signs, because again, one mistake will derail us completely. So starting off, I'm going to do like I did before. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. So this will help me here. I'll get a 0 on this side. Over here I'm going to get y minus 10. Then just like before, I'm going to leave some space. Equals, now over here we got negative 3x squared plus 24x. So I'm going to go ahead and do that step. So factor out a, which is negative 3. That'll leave me with x squared. Now in here, since we're dividing by negative 3 to pull it out, 24 divided by negative 3 is negative 8x. So there we go. We don't want to make a mistake there. And so again, I'm leaving room, and now I'm going to complete the square. So we got negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. Square it. Negative 4 squared is 16. So we're adding 16 on the inside here. And now over on the other side, though, remember we have to make sure to do a times that number. So negative 3 times 16 is going to be negative 48. So again, that's one of those easy to make mistake spots. But we didn't make the mistake, or at least I didn't this time. Hopefully you didn't either. So now let's actually start simplifying this guy. So on the left side, I'm going to have y minus 10 plus negative 48. It's going to be minus 58. Again, it's just an integer thing, but it's a place to make mistakes that people do. Over on the right side, we've got negative 3. And then for the inside here, we're going to use that number, x minus 4 squared. Again, if you don't trust, you can do the diamond over here. Do 16, negative 8, and you'll see that it is negative 4, negative 4. Okay, so now again, I could move this back over there, but since we're going to do the inverse, I'm not going to. I'm just going to keep it as it is. And now let's actually start attacking this guy. So let me grab another Sharpie, and let's go at it. So first, to find an inverse, we switch the x and y. So, oh, this one is kind of blunt, so let's, maybe orange, this looks better. So this will be x minus 58, since we're switching the x and y, equals negative 3 y minus 4 squared. Can that be seen? Yeah, it's visible. Okay, so there we go. We've started it off. Now to get it going, let's get rid of this number in front. So I'm going to divide by negative 3, get a 1 there. So my right side actually isn't bad here. Just get y minus 4 squared. But now on the left side here, x minus 58 over negative 3 isn't like the nicest way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually imagine that since this is a negative, if I divide the top by a negative sign, it's by a negative 1, it's going to go from x minus 58 to 58 minus x. So I'm going to write it exactly that way. 58 minus x over 3. So again, what I did there, if you wanted it in a little aside, is, I'll use a different color here, x minus 58 over negative 1 is equal to 58 minus x. And so since it was negative 3, I just kept the 3 down there. So again, that's one of those tricks, or one of those things that I use to kind of make this simpler. And again, I don't know that it would necessarily be wrong, but it'd look wrong. Like, it doesn't look right the other way. Okay, so here we go, we get to this point. So we've got something squared to get rid of, so we're going to square root both sides, plus or minus. So we're just square rooting plus or minus. So again, a lot of mistakes there. So here on the right side, we get y minus 4. On the left side, plus or minus, we get this square root. And there we go. And again, everything's under the square root, nothing outside it. It's not square root over 3. We're leaving it like this. So from here, if we want to get y all the way alone, we've got to add 4. So I'm going to do that outside the square root. So again, switching the order, y inverse is going to be equal to, this time we added 4, so positive 4 plus or minus the square root 58 minus x all over 3. And again, we don't have to rationalize. We could if we want to, but if this had been a perfect square, it would have been nice to simplify it too. So, but it wasn't. 3 is just a nice normal number. So we're at our final answer. So there we go. Standard quiz question number 6. Checked off. Hopefully it's been helpful. Go get it right this week. Plus or minus.